All right, in cause number 154-6111, the state of Texas versus Antonio Armstrong Jr. We, the jury, find the defendant, Antonio Armstrong Jr., guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
Within 11 minutes of going into that house, before any evidence was processed, before they knew anything about the crime scene, as far as forensics, before anything, they made up their mind. He did it.
On a dark night in July 2016, gunshots rang out in a wealthy Houston neighborhood. When police arrived at the Armstrong family mansion, they made a horrifying discovery. Former NFL star Antonio Armstrong Sr. and his wife Dawn had been shot dead in their own bedroom. The $1 million home's security system showed no signs of a break-in. The shocking answer seemed to come from an unlikely source: the Armstrongs' own 16-year-old son, Antonio Armstrong Jr., also known as AJ. As the police dug deeper, questions began to emerge. Had this teenager committed the ultimate act of violence against his parents? Or was someone else responsible for the brutal double homicide? Join us on this episode of Urban Crime Stories as we examine the compelling evidence, the bizarre events leading up to the murder, and the 3 trials that spanned over 7 years. Antonio Armstrong Sr. was born on October 15, 1973 in Houston, Texas. Raised with his 4 siblings in the church, he played college football at Texas A&M in the early 90s. In 1995, Antonio Sr. was drafted in the 6th round of the NFL draft by the San Francisco 49ers and was later traded to the Miami Dolphins. His NFL career was cut short due to an ankle injury, but he continued playing football in Canada for 5 seasons. Antonio Sr. also served as an associate pastor at his mother's church. While in Canada, he met his future wife, Dawn Whiteley, a Kansas City native who shared his passion for health and fitness. Dawn already had a son before she married Antonio named Josh, whom Antonio adopted. They had 2 more children together, Antonio Jr., born in Canada, and Kara, who was born after they moved back to the United States. The family settled in the Bel Air area of Houston, where they opened first-class gym and later expanded with additional gyms throughout Houston, achieving financial success. The family appeared to embody the all-American family, with all 3 children attending Kincaid, the top-rated private school in the Houston area. On Thursday, July 28, 2016, a 911 call was made to the police at 1:40 a.m. The call was made by 16-year-old Antonio Jr., who reported hearing gunshots from his parents' bedroom. After calling the police, he woke up his 12-year-old sister Kara, and they waited downstairs for the officers. AJ disarmed the alarm system to let the police in, who then found both Dawn and Antonio Sr. with gunshot wounds. Dawn was found on the floor of the master bedroom with a fatal bullet wound to her head and was pronounced dead at the scene. Antonio Sr., also with a gunshot wound to his head, was taken to the hospital but later died from his injuries. The police investigation revealed that the couple had been killed with their own gun, which Antonio Sr. kept on his nightstand. The gun was discovered on the kitchen counter next to a note reading, "I've been watching you, come get me." They also observed that the alarm system had been armed and active throughout the night and had not been triggered by any attempted break-in. This led the police to suspect that the murderer was someone already inside the house. At the time of the murders, only AJ and Kara were at home. Investigators began examining the family's recent relationship, discovering that things were not as perfect in the Armstrong household as they seemed. Both Josh and AJ started becoming rebellious towards their parents. AJ had recently failed out of Kincaid, and his mother Dawn had accused him of smoking weed, drinking, and being a habitual liar. Dawn texted AJ, expressing her disappointment after discovering he had failed out of school. Antonio Sr. also labeled AJ a liar and a manipulator. Meanwhile, Josh was having issues in college, having dropped out and admitting to daily marijuana use, which displeased his parents. However, texts between Josh and his parents reflected more love and support, especially from his mother, who sometimes confided in Josh about her frustrations with AJ. In June 2016, Dawn texted Josh about feeling like a failure as a mother, to which Josh responded with encouragement and love. At the time of the murders, Josh was trying to get back on track by working at one of the family gyms and resuming college classes. Dawn had also found him an apartment and bought him furniture and essentials. While Josh appeared to be improving, Antonio Jr.'s behavior was deteriorating. 2 days before the murders, AJ had set a fire on the stairwell outside his parents' bedroom by putting gasoline in a bottle of rubbing alcohol. His father managed to extinguish the fire before it spread. Dawn texted a photo of the damage to Josh. Adding to the trouble, AJ stole his father's gun, which was the same gun used in the murders. He took it to his room on the 3rd floor and fired it through a pillow and blanket into the floor, directly above his parents' bedroom. He then hid the bullet hole with a pile of socks. The police suspected AJ of premeditating his parents' murder. In response to the bullet hole evidence, AJ provided an explanation that he had been playing around with it, and that he had laid a pillow and blanket over it to stop the bullet when he fired, but that instead, it shot through the pillow and blanket and into the floor. But AJ swore that he never touched the gun the night his parents were murdered. 3 years later, AJ went to trial. He was held in a juvenile detention center for 8 months, and then once he turned 17, he was charged as an adult. However, he was able to post bail and stay with his family until the trial. One of the most intriguing pieces of evidence presented by the prosecutors was the 911 phone call. They noted how calm he was and how he didn't seem very concerned about his parents' condition. AJ asserted that a masked man was in the house, claiming he heard gunshots, called 911, and then went to get his sister. According to the house's layout, AJ would have had to pass his parents' bedroom after the shots were fired. It seemed odd that AJ immediately assumed only his parents were attacked and not his sister. Investigators suggested he was too confident to just walk past the room where he heard gunshots, get his sister, and leave the house. The defense, however, aimed to present an alternative suspect, someone else who had access to the house that night. They called AJ's younger sister, Kara, to the stand to describe the relationship between their parents and Josh. Kara testified that Josh was the black sheep of the family, a heavy drug user whose condition had worsened in the months before the murder. She described him as violent and claimed he heard demonic voices, indicating he was mentally unstable. According to her, the Armstrongs sent Josh out from the house after he hosted a party with marijuana and alcohol while they were away, a few months before the murders. Kara's testimony raised doubts among the jurors. After 19 hours of deliberation, they couldn't reach a unanimous decision, leading the judge to declare a mistrial. 8 jurors voted guilty while 4 voted to acquit. There was a second trial which took place in 2022, while AJ was 22 years old. His paternal grandmother, Kay Winston, testified for the defense that Josh once lit a towel on fire and put it in the oven while living with her after the killings. During AJ's second trial, the prosecution presented cell phone records showing that AJ was active on his phone throughout the night, except at the time of the murders. They noted he charged his phone until 1:04 a.m. and unplugged it at 1:08 a.m. A minute later, motion detectors on the 2nd floor, where his parents' room was, were triggered. Although AJ's phone wasn't being used, its display was lit up, suggesting he might have been using it as a flashlight to walk to his parents' room to commit the murders. By 1:14 a.m., he called 911 and then went to get his sister. However, this evidence still wasn't enough to convict AJ. Once again, the judge declared a mistrial because 8 out of the 12 jurors voted to acquit AJ. Fast forward to 2023. AJ was 23 years old, a father, and facing yet another trial. He married his girlfriend, whom he was dating before the time of the murders, and they had a son together in 2020. Dawn and Antonio's parents were exhausted and believed the justice system was on a witch hunt, causing their family immense pain. Regarding the evidence they were seeking, when AJ was initially taken into custody in 2016, there was no blood on his clothes. However, during a re-examination, it was revealed that a small amount of Antonio Sr.'s blood was present under the police department visitor name tag that AJ wore during questioning. The prosecution suggested that since Antonio Sr. was still breathing and bleeding from his mouth when the police arrived, AJ might have entered the room and used a pillow to cover his face, causing small specks of blood to land on AJ's shirt. The defense argued that there would have been much more blood on AJ's shirt if that were the case. The defense proposed Josh as an alternative suspect. On the night of the murders, Josh received a call from AJ after AJ had called the police. Josh, living just 3 minutes away, ran over with his shotgun, unsure of the situation. According to AJ, Josh was confused and thought AJ might be playing a prank. The defense pointed out Josh's anger and aggression towards the police as signs of guilt, noting that he refused to answer questions about gunshot residue. Josh's alibi was his girlfriend, who claimed they were together all night. The prosecution noted that Josh showed more emotion over losing his parents than AJ did, and revealed Josh's medical records, which indicated he had been in at least 8 different mental health facilities and started suffering from mental health issues months after the murders. Josh's medical records indicated he was psychotic and schizophrenic, eventually becoming catatonic. The defense countered that just because his issues weren't documented earlier didn't mean they didn't exist. Josh's ex-girlfriend testified that he had never behaved this way before the time of his parents' murders. In August 2023, an article reported that Josh had disappeared and his whereabouts were unknown. The defense argued that the note, "I've been watching you for a long time, come get me," was written by someone angry and unstable, suggesting it was Josh. In the third trial, the jury found AJ guilty on all charges. They were convinced by the suspicious 911 call, AJ's interrogation, the test shot he fired, and his phone activity around the time of the murders, as well as his attempt to set the house on fire. They never believed Josh was responsible. AJ was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years, making him eligible for parole in 2063, when he will be 63 years old. AJ Armstrong is currently imprisoned at the Robertson Unit in Abilene, Texas, located about a 6-hour drive from Houston, west of Dallas. AJ filed a civil lawsuit against the Houston Police Department, claiming they planted DNA evidence on the name tag found on his shirt. The lawsuit is ongoing, and AJ is appealing his conviction with a public defender. AJ's sister Kara, now 20, is a student at Louisiana State University. In the end, the evidence against Antonio Armstrong Sr. was too overwhelming for the jury to ignore. The son of a wealthy ex-NFL star was found guilty of murdering his parents in cold blood. What are your thoughts about this story? Do you think justice was truly served? Or did investigators plant evidence on AJ? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell and turn on all notifications to be notified of future crime stories. Your support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, I will see you with another episode of Urban Crime Stories.